Hi, Angie.
Hi, Matthew. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I am really good. I am great now that my campaign is launched.
Woohoo! I'm excited.
Although I do have an after effect of an eye twitch, which I don't know what that's about, but I'm just going to say it's the stress hangover.
I mean, if that's the worst wound you come out of a campaign launch with, I think that's
Not bad.
it's
Not
not
bad.
bad.
Yeah.
So, we're doing something new here, Angie. We
We
are we are taking over the blog with a video, so a vlog.
a
If
vlog.
that's still a thing, a vlog,
I feel like
and
I dated a vlog once. I'm not kidding.
probably,
Yeah.
um, and it's 2020, so
Mm.
that's a time, I mean, well, it's 2020, but also that means it's a time to try new things, right?
Yes.
Experimentation. That's one of the words of the year. So we're doing that here at the DRG Group and trying
Yep.
something new. And it's a conversation about campaigns. And I don't know about you, but I cannot talk about the campaign without a cocktail that's like disappearing
Fancy your
into.
cocktail. I'm drinking water. Cheers to my friend. Yeah, it is after 5 p.m.
It is, because it may not be when people
Anyone,
watch this.
yeah, we are very productive people, 8 to 5,
Exceptionally responsible,
most of the time,
usually.
except when we're not.
We'll see how this conversation goes.
That's right.
So here's the situation, folks. Picture it. It's 2020, and at both of our institutions, Angie and I are engaged in different stages of a campaign. Um, for us at Colorado State University, the first half of this year was the very last 6 months of an 8-year comprehensive campaign. So we had campaign finale plans in the works and lots to do and celebrate and talk about. Flying by the overall campaign goal, getting lots of folks involved, huge donor impact, and 2020 hits. And then
Mhm.
for Angie, it's
We were ready to go into to publicly launch our campaign, a $2 billion campaign, the second ever campaign ever in UC Davis history. We were ready to launch on 10/10/2020, and we had a theme, we had a concept, we had invitations designed, everything, and save the dates were ready to go, and the pandemic hit.
so Angie,
Yes.
we all can travel back in our minds a little bit to March,
Mhm.
um, which weirdly in pandemic time seems like last week and 10 years ago, all at the same
Exactly.
time.
Yes.
Um, because sometimes last week actually seems like 10 years ago. But when did you first realize that you would have to change your campaign launch plans for UC Davis? And what did you
Um,
do?
we, hmm, when we went on lockdown, it was like March 16th. We had a pretty good idea at that point. I think Lynn Wester was one of the few people saying, we're going to be down for a while. And I'm a very glass half full person. I was like, no, no, no. They will get this under control. We will be back at it. I would say we probably spent about a month, the month of March and middle of April, to decide that we were going to be locked down. And even if we weren't, people probably were not going to want to gather in large groups. And we weren't sure we wanted to do the event in the way we would have to do it to have it be that socially distanced. So it took us about a month um, to kind of wrap our heads around that this is what I was going to have to sell to my university leadership. As it turns out, it was super easy. I, we took a look at our guest list and we expanded it tenfold. And we have a new chancellor, and we said we can do option A, B, or C. And he said, I want to tell, we're starting this campaign. So honestly, if my leadership would have said, like many other people across the country, many other people said, we're pushing it back. My chancellor was like, nope, let's do it. The world has never needed UC Davis more than they do right now. And honestly, he wanted to be able to answer that question if asked. He kind of was like baiting people to ask him, why are you doing this in a pandemic? And it was, you know, like I had awesome leadership and they said, let's do it. And he said, can you figure out how to do this? And I'm like, yes, I can. Yes. And we did. So how about you guys? What did how you were trying to wrap up this beautiful campaign?
Oh yeah.
Like how, yeah.
Probably it took us about the same time, and it was March 18th, I think, maybe, when we went remote, which was a couple of days before the entire university did it, that we did it in advancement. It was during spring break. I remember that part. And I think like a lot of people at the beginning, we thought, you know, they'll get this under control. The lockdown is not going to be for that long, maybe 6 weeks. Now, April is always an exceptionally busy month for events, right? So we did have to cancel a lot, but we didn't do anything with our campaign finale at that time. So that was planned a weekend of events, planned the first weekend in June. And the campaign was officially ending on June 30th. We had surpassed the goal almost 2 years in advance, but we kept it going without raising the goal. Just, you know, the campaign was planned to dovetail with the celebration of our 150th anniversary. So we wanted to stay on that timeline and keep things going, right? So we just went beyond $1 billion was the tagline for that last stretch of the campaign. And oh, it was fun. And, you know, we had like all of these fabulous plans. There were actually 12 weeks of impact communications scheduled to begin at the beginning of April. And we immediately put those on hold, just trying to gauge, you know, where are folks? What do they want to hear about? What are they concerned about? There's a lot of concern for personal safety at this time. But again, thinking we're probably going to be back on campus in May. And, right, like optimistic. And as we went into April pretty early on, we could see we're not necessarily trending that way. And to your point, even if we can do it at in early June, my 6-year-old is arriving right now. This could not be more 2020 than to be doing a conversation and have a little guest star, right? It's all of our lives. So, so a couple of weeks into April, we are looking around and going, oh, you know, much like you all did, even if we could do it, not necessarily should we. And a part of that, for us, the timeline was sort of driven by the communications calendar. That was the time that we needed to be sending invitations and collecting RSVPs. And we thought, you know, again, even if things are under control by June and we can do this, we have to communicate about it right now. And right now, this is not what people are concerned about or what they want to hear about, right? So we went, we had a campaign close committee, as you know, universities love to do. We have a committee about this, right? But just with diverse perspectives from around the division, helping us to shape what the experiences would be like, you know, what are the audiences we're communicating with? How are we going to do this? And we scrapped that plan and went back to the drawing board, just started over with ideating and thinking about, okay, how do we do this? And for us, it was really important to center on the purpose, right? Let go of our attachments to this gorgeous party on the Oval, which is the picture behind me. This was created for our 150th, actually, so it shows the past and current. Um, but to let go of that vision and to say, what's the most important thing? Why do we
Mhm.
have a campaign finale? Well, it really
Mhm.
is to say thank you to our donors and to communicate the impact of their giving. And we can do that without an in-person event. We can do that without an event, period. And in fact, we
Right.
may be more effective in telling that story in other
Mhm.
ways. And that's how we started to pivot and work through the process of telling the story differently and reaching people differently. And as you were saying, you were able to expand that invitation list, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so we're able to expand how we're communicating the impact because it's not this exclusive event in one place at a designated time and location. It's a story of impact that we could share with everyone who was a part of it.
Mhm.
And that was
Mhm.
exciting. That was an exciting part.
Love it. I love it. I love that you thought about what is the end goal, right? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? And I think that's the thing I see the most when I do consulting, when I do my own work, when I help any of my teams. It's what is the end goal, right? For you, it was to celebrate, right? To celebrate impact and show what people made possible. For me, it was to roll out a whole new campaign brand to tell the world we were launching. And while typically a typical campaign launch is about, inviting the closest donors, the closest volunteers, the highest tier of donors, they're already bought in. What I loved the most is that we had an opportunity to take the message broader, and deeper, broader. And I think that was the piece that we really, really liked. And now thousands of people know about it, not just the group that we already had either committed or we thought we're going to commit to the campaign. Now I have students and employees. I have all these people who are now aware of it. And that was our end goal, right? Our end goal was to announce the campaign. Ta-da, we're doing it. So I love that. I love that point that you made, Matthew, that it's never forget that it's about the purpose, right? Like, what is the purpose? We're not just doing beautiful events for the sake of it. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like being able to recenter on purpose has helped us in pivoting around a lot of different experiences.
Every event. Agreed.
Commencement, alumni engagement, just asking again, why are we doing this? And
Agreed.
for, sometimes when we're working with team members or we're working with partners, um, it, you can ask those questions, you can get those questions answered, but it's still difficult to move away from what has traditionally happened.
Mhm.
And a great thing, a silver lining of 2020 and the pandemic, if you will, is that what we've traditionally done is not available to us. So we are
Yes.
able to think differently about how are we going to accomplish this.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think that's a question that we've asked at DRG and in our work with our teams and with clients. How can you accomplish this goal differently and even better?
Mm-hmm.
But it still can be difficult to just break away for all of us from
Mm-hmm.
the traditional
Mm-hmm.
methods, and having that just removed as an option really
Yes.
frees us up, I think,
Yes.
to think.
100%. Did you have a lot of people reach out to you and other colleagues from around the country and say, I hear you're going to go ahead and close your campaign? What are you doing and how are you doing that?
We didn't have a lot of that at the beginning. I spoke at CASE Special Events for Advancement, and we had some of that happen afterward when I told them we're going ahead and we're doing
Right.
this. And for us, we didn't have an option. The campaign was
Right.
over.
Right.
And one option is to just let it go silently into the night, right? We've met our goal. We did a big celebration when we met the goal. Um, and yet we've kept it going for almost 2 years, and a lot more donors have contributed and made impact.
Mhm.
And even when we celebrated hitting the goal, we weren't necessarily celebrating impact on the way that we could cumulatively as part of a campaign retrospective. And
Mhm.
so it was important to me that like we owed that to our donors.
Yep.
And even though everyone is going through a lot, balancing a lot, dealing with a lot of input, gratitude and showcasing impact, that can cut through the noise, and it's meaningful no matter when
Absolutely.
and how you deliver it.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, people were looking for something to cheer about.
Mhm.
I mean, the people just wanted to be happy and excited. And you now remind me, your campaign finale was done,
So we pivoted,
completed.
again. So the campaign was done at the end of June. Our campaign finale activities were in mid-August.
Okay.
So that also gave us an opportunity that we weren't going to have within person
Mm-hmm.
to be able to say, this is, we're done. The books are closed.
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
down to the penny, the exact amount, the exact
I
impact
love it.
of the campaign. And I loved that aspect. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
quick turn to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do that. But we could also repurpose and leverage some of what we had already been working on from a
Yeah.
communication standpoint in particular.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And I think that, you know, um, as much as we were ready to move forward into sort of what's next and to also create space for people. I remember having conversations about timing and knowing that with mid-August and early September, for a lot of people, particularly for everyone at CSU, but for our donors and alumni, the return to school was going to come with all of these questions and different things that
Yes.
they had to balance. And so it was important to us to get the message out while it was still relevant and not
Yes.
wait until longer in the fall, which probably would have meant higher production quality on some
Mm-hmm.
things,
Mm-hmm.
maybe stories told more in depth,
Mm-hmm.
with that extra time. But it wasn't really about getting it perfect. It was
Mm-hmm.
about getting it right. And getting it right meant, trying to find this time where we could share this message, share this gratitude, and it could be received and heard because it wasn't competing with, just life and
Yes.
the competing messages that
Yes.
we had.
That was actually really brilliant planning on your part before school started, because how would we have ever guessed? I mean, I guess we sort of could anticipate that when students came back, if they were allowed to come back to campus, there was going to be huge spikes. And imagine trying to do that at a time when spikes were happening and cases were going up, or worse, you were saying we weren't coming back. So that was really brilliant. We did not have a choice because our date was set for October. So it was literally, we're on the quarter system. It was 10 days after the students came back to campus. So we had about a third of our students come back to campus. And it was luckily it did not become a big issue, but we did cancel our media announcement. We were going to do a big media event to announce the campaign, and we decided that was just playing with fire to bring a bunch of media people to campus with what potentially could happen
Mm-hmm.
with COVID spikes. And we just said, let's just not do that. And so we changed that event. So again, I love, you manage a communications team, so do I, right? And the fact that those two teams could work so seamlessly together to help us make the best possible decisions. How lucky are we?
Oh yeah. it was so fortunate to have our donor relations team, our communications and marketing team, and the events team all on the same, we're all on the same team, and to be in the same room sharing ideas and making each other's ideas better. And, having someone who, is an events professional, a leader on the events team, helping to direct the video experience and,
Mhm.
sort of creating, how do we create an experience around
Love
telling
it.
the story of impact? That was really important to us, knowing
Mhm.
that we were losing the in-person experience
Mhm.
part of it. And so when you watch the campaign finale video, it does actually bring you to the Oval, which was the site of the event. And of course, we had sent out save the date, so people knew that there was going to be an event before we ended up canceling it. But being able to bring them there, without physically bringing them there,
Love it.
just tie back to that heart of who we are. I thought that
I
that part
love
was
that.
important. One of the things that I loved about your videos, and I'm, um, it's remarkable to me because knowing that your students came back just 10 days before, but the number of students who are in the videos that you used as part of your campaign launch was impressive to me. And that was a piece that was a lot, it was like really, really challenging for us, and it
So
may have been for you
difficult.
too, because
So
we were shooting
difficult.
over the summer and they were,
So difficult.
yeah. How'd
Yeah, I
you do
mean,
it?
some of that was the, magic of video. The student dancers
Mm,
shot for other videos and it went with our music. We asked them if we could use them and it just lucked out. Like that's what I say. It was like a sleight of hand.
wow.
No, 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 true story. The performer that was the young woman who was on our stage performing, that was live. And there were all the students who interviewed at their homes, of course, those were live. But it was really difficult to get students to get excited about helping us. They were so mad, and sad and all the feelings, right, about their experience and that we were the least of their worries. So we're lucky we have a student foundation committee who are really tuned in to the work that we do. And so they stepped up in a big, big way.
Oh,
So,
that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
it looked seamless, the magic of video. We were so impressed watching, like, oh, they have this original song and these dancers that are
Oh,
dancing
yeah.
to the song, and it's
The
so impressive.
spoken word artists were
Yeah.
we had recording studios in 3 different places in the country. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Yeah. It,
But,
it, oh, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. No,
I mean, it is a labor of love. I
it
mean,
is.
it is, but it takes like this extra level to be able to do this and deliver something that's meaningful and that will have an impact during this time. Like I get it.
Mhm,
There are probably folks out there listening to our conversation right now going, you know, yeah, but
mhm.
and I get it. It does take a lot of extra, and we do run into unanticipated challenges. Everything
Oh my
takes
gosh.
2 or 3 times longer. That's
That's
part of
what
it.
I always say. That's so funny. You said 2 or 3 times. I always say it's 2.5 times harder than it ever would have been pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Post-COVID. Did I say it right? Yeah. I mean, it's just everything. Everything was difficult. I mean, we had our video crew come from the Midwest in an RV
Oh
because
my,
flying was not an option at the time. They drove cross country in an RV and spent 10 days in an RV park of their choosing. I offered to, put them up in a hotel, but they're like, no, it's fine. And we literally ran those poor people ragged. I mean, with video shoots for 10 solid days, but we did it. We did it. So
kudos to you.
crazy, crazy.
What? We talked a little bit about some of the challenges. What would you say was the most challenging aspect of pulling together your new plan, or being able to execute your new?
Mm. Do you know, I think this would be the challenge for just working remotely in general is some of the best ideas come in that energy when you're in the office and you can, throw something out and several people can respond and react to it. So while we did lots and lots and lots of Zoom meetings and calls, there's just something that was missing about that. And I ended up having to make a lot of decisions. I felt kind of alone in the process, right? Like I had to make the decisions because, you know, people would get back to you after their kids' class or, and you needed a decision right then, right? So to me, that not being together was probably the most difficult. What about for you?
Yeah, I miss that aspect
Yeah.
of our work in general. And
Yes, me too.
it definitely it shows up sometimes in the product, I feel like, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think the most challenging aspect for us was timing. Um, so while we could center ourselves on the purpose of recognizing our donors, saying thank you, and showcasing their impact, and that those to me, those are timeless concepts and also need to be timely.
Hmm.
Um, as we went into setting the plans, and so much of it was going to be based on communicating and um, the the thought of celebrating raising $1.28 billion while our state and our institution were dealing with these massive um, revenue shortages and budget
Hmm.
shortfalls and budget cuts.
Hmm.
That was tricky to figure out,
That would
okay,
have
how do we
been.
tell this story without necessarily focusing on that part? Um, Now, in some ways, I think it's easy to do because we can focus on the impact that it has and not the
Sure.
numbers. And that's what we should be doing anyway.
Hmm.
But the media always wants to focus on the numbers. And part of that is maybe how we've trained them over the years, right? With our
Hmm.
press releases and those types of different things. Um, so how do we hit that spot to be able to deliver that? And part of our fear was we were going to get next, our fiscal year starts on July 1. So we were going to, get the budget numbers um, right toward the end of the campaign, right as we were about to communicate about impact. And
Yeah.
what if they were devastating? And they could have been, and we were saved by reserves that our system had. And I'm so grateful for that. And that
Hmm.
that softened it a little bit so that we were able to tell the story that we did. But then also as it came up to, to D-Day, right? To delivering the message in that mid-August timeframe, when you think about the news cycle of 2020, and every day was something, and it was massive. And, how could we even um, compete for people's attention?
Hmm.
And would any of our celebratory messages come across as being out of touch with what was really happening? And so we worked a lot to really tie, the impact of this campaign to what was actually happening in our world now. The fact that so many donors stand with us is what helps us be able to weather these types of crises and to move forward in our mission and continue doing what we exist to do. And that became a more important thread in our story than I think it would have had the pandemic not hit,
Hmm.
right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But we have to be really thoughtful in these stories and how we tell them and how we make them relevant in today's world, because that's what's really meaningful for folks. And we don't want to deliver something that have people going, "Eh, are they living the same life that I'm living right now?" Right?
No, I know. And to add on to that, we were able to, we already had the program approved, and the storyline just sort of magically, and I say magically because I really do believe it, worked with the times, right? So we were talking about climate change while there were literally people being evacuated. Some of my staff are being evacuated in California. We were, we've been talking, you know, I'm so lucky to have a chancellor that cares so deeply about diversity and inclusion. And he wrote this beautiful op-ed piece after the George Floyd incident. He's a Black man, and he, you know, we addressed what was happening in the world in our event, and we talked about all of the sort of the biggest, hairiest topics, and we didn't even like try to steer away. It just is how it happened. And people noticed that when they watched the program. They were like, did you plan to talk about climate change? Well, it is one of the things we're really well known for. It's one of our big ideas. So it was just really, really interesting how magically the program we had approved and all of the story elements just could very naturally be told instead of in person via video. So, so interesting how that works.
Well, it shows the relevance of the work that we do in nonprofits and higher education, too, right? I mean, a lot of the solutions we are providing are on the front lines of these times. And I think it that in itself recenters us on the purpose of why our organizations exist, which is it's meaningful, I think, to all of us who work there, who support these organizations. That part's important.